It's strange how, when everything falls apart, you can still feel yourself slipping piece by piece. You don't lose it all at once. It happens slowly, like the slow creaking of a door you thought was locked. At first, you think you're still in control, that you can pull yourself back. But before you know it, you're gone. That's how it was for me. The first time she came into my cell, fully formed, was the night I knew it was over. I had been fighting it for weeks, telling myself that the flashes of her face, the whispers in the dark, were all in my head. Stress, guilt, a guilty conscience. I could explain it all away. But that night she stepped out of the shadows, her bare feet leaving wet prints on the cold concrete floor. I'll never forget the sound of it. Drip, drip, drip. Her hair was soaked, like she had just crawled out of a river, still tangled with leaves and mud, and her eyes, God, her eyes. They were empty, like she had died long before her body did. Her mouth twisted into a smile that didn't belong on any living face. She whispered, her voice low and hollow, like it was coming from the bottom of a well. She moved slowly, deliberately, like she had all the time in the world. My body froze. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. All I could do was sit there watching as she came closer and closer. She didn't rush. No, that would have been too easy. She wanted me to feel every second of it, to know that I had nowhere to run, no way to escape. She stopped right in front of me. I could feel the cold radiating off her skin, smell the damp earth that clung to her like a shroud. She crouched down until her face was level with mine, her dead eyes staring right through me. I could feel her breath on my skin, cold and damp like a winter breeze. I couldn't argue. What was there to say? She was right. I lied. I had promised her everything, freedom, justice, revenge, and I had delivered nothing. I had used her, just like I had used everyone else, all to serve my own agenda. I was never going to keep my word. She knew it. I knew it. And now she was here to collect. After that night, she didn't leave. She was always there, just out of sight, always watching, always waiting. I would hear her at night, pacing outside my cell, her bare feet slapping against the cold stone floor. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel her standing over me, her breath cold against my skin, her fingers just inches from my throat. I tried to tell myself it wasn't real. I tried to convince myself that it was just the guilt, that I could still pull myself out of this. But every day, I felt her getting stronger. It wasn't just in my head anymore. She was, and she was never going to leave. I started seeing her everywhere. In the reflection of the cell window, in the dirty glass of my water cup, even in the faces of the guards who came to check on me. She wasn't just haunting me. She was me. I couldn't tell where she ended, and I began. My thoughts weren't my own anymore. She was inside my head, twisting everything, making me see things that weren't there, whispering in my ear, reminding me of every lie, every broken promise. My hands started shaking. At first it was just a tremor, something small that I could hide, but soon I couldn't control it. My fingers wouldn't stop moving, scratching at the walls, at the floor, at my skin. I didn't even realize what I was doing until I saw the blood, thick and dark, smeared across the stone. I'd been carving her name into the wall over and over again. My fingers were raw, the skin torn and bleeding, but I couldn't stop. I'd to finish it. I'd to make her stop. But she never stopped. Every night I would wake up to find my sheets soaked in blood, my hands torn to shreds, my nails cracked and broken. I had been writing, no, the truth, over and over again in my own blood. The guards would come in, shake their heads and clean it up, thinking I was just another broken defector cracking under the weight of my own guilt. They didn't know it was her. They didn't understand that I wasn't in control anymore. The night it all ended, I woke up to find her sitting on the edge of my bed. She wasn't whispering anymore. She wasn't pacing outside my cell. She was just sitting there, staring at me with those empty eyes, waiting for me to finally break.
It's time.
Her voice was no longer cold, but calm, almost gentle. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I just lay there, staring back at her, waiting for whatever was going to come next. My body was numb, my mind fractured beyond repair. There was no point in fighting anymore. I had lost. She had won. She reached out, her cold fingers brushing against my cheek. I could feel her breath on my skin, cold and damp like the air in a tomb.
You broke your promise, now you'll break with it.
That's when I knew it was over. There was no escape, no redemption, no second chance. I had betrayed her, betrayed myself, and now I was going to pay for it. I don't remember what happened after that.
The guards said they found me the next morning, sitting in the corner of my cell, my fingers bloodied and raw, my confession smeared across the walls. I had written everything. Every lie, every broken promise, every betrayal, in blood. My story, my confession, my final act of desperation. But it wasn't for the world. It wasn't for the South Koreans. It wasn't for anyone but...
She was gone after that. I haven't seen her since. But even though she's not here, I can still feel her. Every time I close my eyes, I can feel her cold fingers wrapping around my throat, squeezing tighter and tighter, waiting for me to take my last breath. And I know deep down that she'll never really leave. Suddenly I jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat, my heart racing as I took in my surroundings. I was back in my luxurious apartment, luxurious by North Korean standards at least, with its sparse furnishings and stark white walls, a world away from the horrors of the prison that had haunted my dreams. As I blinked away the remnants of the nightmare, a wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly followed by a sickening realization. It was all just a dream, a twisted manifestation of my fears.
The propaganda of the regime echoed in my mind, the indoctrination deep and unyielding. I vowed then and there to be docile, to suppress any rebellious thoughts, and to pledge my unwavering loyalty to the great leader. Defecting to South Korea was a dangerous fantasy, one that I knew I must banish forever, lest I invite the wrath of a regime that would not hesitate to crush anyone who dared to betray it.
But as the echoes of the dream lingered in my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in on me. Would I always be just a puppet in this twisted game, forever bound by the chains of fear? Or was there still a flicker of hope, a chance to reclaim my own destiny? Yet as I glanced out the window at the world beyond, a flicker of doubt crept in. Was this life truly my own, or just a prison in disguise? The oppressive weight of my decision hung heavy in the air, and I couldn't help but wonder, how long could I suppress the yearning for freedom before it consumed me? The tension in my chest tightened, leaving me with a lingering question. Was I really safe, or had I merely traded one nightmare for another? You decide. Let me know in the comments.